Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining tonight's edition of HR Mentorship Learning Series. And tonight we'll be looking at a topic I've captioned Overview of Contemporary HR Theories and Practical Applications. Ladies and gentlemen, just for the benefit of a few people, I will just run through my profile or bio very briefly. You can see some of the places I've worked, some of the things I've done, and I've added value to organizations and firms and to individuals in the last few years and decades, as the case may be. Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes it's not easy to talk about yourself, as you can really be, someone can be shy. Let me use that word. All right, so let's quickly dive straight into tonight's business. I must confess that, in the marketplace, sometimes when you engage and relate with people, especially HR professionals and also business leaders, you may do something at times or say something at times. They will say, use a phrase or a word like, oh, why are you being theoretical? And sometimes when people use that kind of phrase or sentence like, oh, why are you being theoretical? They are trying to make it look like what you are saying is not practical or is not applicable or cannot be used. And over the course of writing different professional exams, over the course of handling various HR projects, either as an in-house HR professional or providing support as an external consultant, or even collaborating with colleagues and friends in this industry, the more I begin to see the alignment between the so-called theories and practice. As you will see tonight that there are some of the theories we will discuss, you'll be like, oh, I've done something like this before, even though you might not have known that that is the name of the theory. So one of the things I've come to realize is that, especially in social sciences, humanities, and the likes, what we call theory is like synthesized practice. And a lot of theories get formed, synthesized either so while in science you have a laboratory, so to speak, in social science, humanities is from the workplace, relationships, either in the factory, in the firm, and so on and so forth. And you will see the application of these theories. And intentionally too, I've tried to also articulate the limitations of these theories. Let me also quickly put this up front that all these theories, you will also see some similarities or overlaps between these theories, because the way theory advances is maybe you look at an existing theory or a current theory and you say, what are the weaknesses of these theories? What are the limitations of these theories? And then you research further, conduct additional tests, look at do new experiments and so on and so forth, or study even more. And then you know that in human behavior, we are evolving, we are dynamic. For example, we have different generations at the workplace, and sometimes the way Gen Z or or the way baby boomers react and respond to certain contexts may change because the society is evolving as we move along the industrial era to the fourth industrial evolution. All right, so let's just approach this conversation, one, with a mindset to just get a general appreciation of these theories, and then two, hopefully you see some you have been using in one way or the other, but ultimately you'll be able to see how you can either apply some of these theories or a combination of these theories. Permit me to say you may even cherry pick something from this theory, something from that other theory, something from this other theory, and then use it in your own peculiar context. Now, the first set of theories we'll be looking at, look at Maslow's theory, McClelland's acquired needs theory, self-determination theory, Herzberg's two-factor theory, and Bloom's expectancy theory. Yes, I know I told you that we'll be speaking about contemporary theories, but from in the world of academics, you don't throw away the ancient landmarks so that you see the flow and then you get to appreciate the current things that are around the corner. Ladies and gentlemen, now you will see that what is the main thrust of Maslow's theory. I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with this at one level or the other, but he looks at 5 levels of needs. Okay, that generally speaking, human beings will have 5 levels of needs, from the psychological safety, okay, social or belonging, self-esteem, self-actualization, you know, and these are some of the domains that you agree that it still even applies today in this part of the world. And what are some of the key assumptions of Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Okay, people are motivated to satisfy lower level needs before progressing to higher level needs. And one of the things about this is that, so if you hire a young man or a young woman who is a copper, maybe their need may just be, oh, let me be able to afford accommodation, let me be able to pay my transport. But in the next few years, for example, as this same set of people maybe get married, have children, their priorities in life begin to change. And one of the things I like about this theory is that human beings, employees are evolving. And so what we were giving them yesterday that was, making them excited, delighted, we may need to change because they might have moved on the hierarchy of needs. Of course, I know it may not be easy for you to go and be asking your staff that, oh, on the hierarchy of needs, where are you today? But I need you to know that everyone is somewhere on that hierarchy of needs, and that hierarchy of need is not a static position. You could move up or down, as the case may be. Now, some of the criticisms of this Maslow's hierarchy of need include that it seemingly lacks empirical evidence to support strict hierarchy. Needs may overlap or occur simultaneously, which is something I think I align with, and that cultural differences may alter priority. In other words, maybe somebody in Southwest Nigeria may differ from someone in the northeast of Nigeria based on this hierarchy of needs. And some of the practical application, in addition to what I've said, it can be used in employee benefit design. Okay, so you know that when you are doing the benefits, what are the hierarchy of your organizational benefits? For example, maybe your salary was it speaking to, and then do you have certain kind of other needs for people who are looking at self-actualization, for example, self-esteem. Let me give another example quickly so that I don't forget. You will realize that there are some employees, they are very particular about the job title. So if you give them the title HR manager versus vice president human resources, because of the fact that maybe they are interested in self-esteem, they're interested in maybe even self-actualization, they will appreciate you more if you give them maybe that vice president human resource. They are particular about the nomenclature of the role, even if the job description is still the same. And you may be able to retain certain employees by changing and giving them, so to speak, a more befitting job title, just to mention. And it can also help, guide leaders in addressing different employee motivation. So we engage with employees, find out at time where they are on the hierarchy or where they are gravitating towards, and then we'll be able to see from our offerings of the employee value proposition, of compensation and benefits, and even our career plan and management, our learning and development, what can we deploy to satisfy this level of employees? The final thing I like to say on this note is that what you will always have part-time, the cross-section of your employees will be on the different layers of the 5 levels of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And that is why when you are coming up with employee offerings, benefits, compensation, incentives, make sure that you touch the different aspects of the hierarchy. That is one sure way that you'll be able to connect with every member of your staff, because they will be in different areas of need. Okay, I hope I'm making sense. I hope I'm communicating. I hope that is well understood. As we continue in this conversation, feel free to drop your thoughts, comments, examples, and so on and so forth. The next theory we'll be speaking to very swiftly is the McClelland's acquired needs theory. All right, and according to this theory, there are three needs of employees. One is the need for achievement. Okay. Two is the need for affiliation. Three is the need for power. Now look at this. Achievement, affiliation, power. You can see that there are some, should I use the word overlap or correlation between this theory and even Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Because when you are talking about belonging in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that is close to affiliation in the McClelland's acquired needs theories. Some of the key assumptions here is that individuals develop these needs through life experiences and social learning. And some of the criticisms around this theory includes it could be oversimplistic. Okay, it oversimplifies motivation by focusing on three areas, and the three areas are achievement, affiliation, and power. And that there was limited research on the interactions of even these three needs. How does this affect? What can we look at from a practical standpoint? It could even be used maybe in our recruitment, in hiring, career development. For example, you can assign high-achieving individuals to challenging roles. So based on their sentiments, you give them assignments, functions where if they succeed, because they have this need, gravitational pull towards achievement, you give them challenging opportunities, tasks, and projects, and then they're able to deliver. It further boosts their needs. Now, if somebody's need is achievement, it's not only money they are looking for. So if they get a role, maybe with a slightly lower pay, but we give them capacity to achieve more, they will move towards that role. Okay. And this helps to guide leadership in task and team assignments. Some people like to succeed, and they like pressure, and they like high profile task. Now, the third point here is the self-determination theory. And it speaks to what? Three intrinsic needs. Okay. One is what? Autonomy. Next is competence. And the final thing here is what? Relatedness. Again, we are speaking around self-determination theory. So when we say self, so even from the name of the theory, self, the person, the individual, they value what? Autonomy, value competence, and then the relatedness. So people are inherently motivated to grow and then to thrive when these needs are satisfied. Okay, so some of the criticisms surrounding these theories focus more on intrinsic motivation, in other words, internal, neglecting external factors such as pay. It assumes universal applicability, ignoring individuals and cultural differences. Some of the practical applications here will include, if somebody likes autonomy, for example, that means that kind of a professional or individual, if you are assigned to a line manager that is a micromanager, the employee will not thrive, will be unhappy, and they'll be predisposed to either changing department or changing organization, as the case may be. All right. So with respect to competence too, if you provide a lot of trainings, internal, external, online, in classroom, on the job, because you are developing the competence, the capabilities, okay, you will help support the employee. Now, the other theory, which is the Herzberg two-factor theory. All right, and this speaks to hygiene factors on one hand, such as salary, work conditions, company policy, and so on and so forth. And then you have motivators like recognition, growth, achievement. These drive satisfaction. Now, some of the key assumptions here is that job satisfaction and dissatisfaction, as the case may be, arise from different factors. Hygiene factors cannot motivate, but they must be addressed to avoid what? Dissatisfaction. Some of the criticisms here, it overlooks individual differences and personality traits. It ignores external factors like economic conditions that can affect hygiene factors. Okay, so hygiene Herzberg two-factor can be applicable in job enrichment programs, okay, workplace design. It helps managers to identify and address dissatisfaction triggers while fostering motivation. For example, in some organizations today, what can be a dissatisfaction trigger? If you don't allow hybrid at all, maybe 2 days on or 3 days on, 2 days off, 2 days on, 3 days off, that could be a dissatisfaction. Okay. The last point I'll be looking at here is the Vroom's expectation theory. We are still focusing largely on the theories of motivation. Now, what are the core elements of Vroom's motivation theory? One, motivation is influenced by what? Expectancy, expectation, okay, and effort leads to what? Performance, and is instrumentality. Ladies and gentlemen, in Vroom's expectancy theory, you are looking at things like performance, rewards, and value of rewards. The key assumptions here, individuals act based on what? Rational evaluation of expected outcomes. So if we get this project delivered, what are you going to give us? If we get this new customer on board, what are you going to give us? Some of the criticisms with respect to Vroom's expectancy theory include it assumes people always act rationally. It's also sometimes difficult to quantify variables like expectancy and valence. And then sometimes it is challenging to contextualize it, some of these specific limitations. Okay, but the good thing with this Vroom expectation theory is that in practice, when we are doing things like goal setting and performance-based reward systems, it helps us to be able to say, this is the task, this is the expectations, this is the deliverables, this is the reward. So you deliver this, you get this. So it is used to design motivational programs that align efforts with design, as the case may be. So having looked at a few motivational theories, we'll now move on to learning and development theories. I also try to bucket some of the theories together, like collection of like terms, if we can put it that way. So we have the Club's experimental learning theory. We have the social learning theory. We also have the adult learning theory, and then the 70-20-10 learning theory. Okay, I hope we are familiar with some of these theories, but let's just look at these theories quickly. Now, with respect to the Club experiential learning theory, it looks at the core elements include learning is a 4-stage cyclical process. Okay, 1, concrete experience. 2, reflective observation. 3, abstract conceptualization. And 4, active experimentation. So you look at experience, concrete experience, you look at reflective observation, you look at abstract conceptualization, and active experimentation. Now, when you design a learning program with this in mind, you want the participant, for example, to have experience. At some point during the training, you want them to have course or multiple times to reflect and observe. Then you need them to be able to conceptualize, like create something. And then you want them to have hands-on. That's this experimentation. And that's why sometimes you see maybe in the training, you are doing like a case study, a group work, a project, just trying to have a few of these 4 elements. And the assumptions here include the fact that learning is best understood as a process and not a product. Also, effective learning occurs through experience and reflection. So you must design the learning program to be able to support these 4 core elements. Of course, like every other theory, some of the criticisms include the fact that it may overemphasize the role of reflection. It may also ignore cultural and situational influences, and not all learners fit neatly into the proposed stages. Okay, and practical applications also include workplace simulation, internship. So when people are doing internship, you will see that it's a learning process, and in that learning, they will have exposure to concrete experience. From time to time, they will have cause to reflect, and they will be able to conceptualize. And it's an active experimentation because they are also getting their hands involved in assignments, in projects and tasks, as the case may be. It may also help design experimental training programs and learning through doing and reflection. Next to Kolb's experimental learning theory is the social learning theory. And in the social learning theory, the concept here is that learning occurs through observation, what you see, how you see other people get things done in the workplace. It also occurs through what? Imitation. And children also do this. Kids do this. They look at their parents or the adults that they are predominantly exposed to, and you do what? You imitate. And then learning also occurs through modeling. Okay, observation, imitation, and modeling. And modeling could be, you are looking at senior people in the organization, the leaders in the organization, the people that are respected or that have the means in the organization. And if they come early, for example, you want to come early. They come late, you want to come late. You are modeling after them, like role model. Okay, some of the key factors include attention, retention, reproduction, and motivation. Now, in respect to this social learning theory, we can apply it in mentoring and coaching programs. Okay, you are looking at also influences around learning platforms that use video demonstration and interactive models. The key assumptions include people learn by observing others. Behavior is influenced by rewards and punishments seen in others. So how you celebrate other people or how you reward other people, how you appreciate other people, and people are looking at it, they will determine and decide what to imitate, what to model after, and what to reproduce, as the case may be. All right, some of the criticisms around this concept will include it overlooks individual cognitive processes. It's also limited in explaining learning that occurs without observation, because learning can happen without observation. Okay. Now, looking at the other theories, which is the adult learning theory. So you have theories around children. You also now have adult learning theories. And adults, unlike maybe children or very young people, kids, are typically self-directed learners. In other words, if they don't want to learn, they don't want to learn. Okay. There's a limit to which you can coerce them or force them. Learning is driven by experience and relevance to real life problems. So if you are teaching adults some concepts, and those concepts, for example, they cannot link it to what they do on their job, maybe what on Monday morning or any of their day-to-day deliverables, they will be lost. They will be bored. They will disconnect very very easily. So it must relate to what? Real life problems on the job, on their job. Okay. It also emphasizes internal motivation. In other words, the adult is willing, eager, excited to learn. Okay, so when you come up with professional development trainings and workshops and so on and so forth, you try to ensure that when you have a pool of adults you want to train, you try to find out their needs, you try to know what they are doing, their challenges, the opportunities around them, so that the kind of training intervention you are giving to them makes sense to them. And that way you will get their attention even more. And it can also be applied in designing learner-centered curriculum for adults. All right. So some of the assumptions include the fact that adults learn best when they see immediate relevance. In other words, they can quickly apply what they are learning. Prior experience also shape learning. So as you are teaching them, they can link some of the insights and information with some of the things they've done in the past and some of the results they've been able to get. And adults also, to a large extent, prefer autonomy in the learning process. Of course, again, there are some criticisms to this adult learning theory. Okay, it assumes all adults are equally self-directed, most likely not. It overlooks barriers like time, constraints, and also lack of motivation. Ladies and gentlemen, the final learning theory, I suspect most of us should be familiar with this, or we must have had it mentioned at one point or the other, which is the 70-20-10 model. And the 70-20-10 model says that learning occurs generally 70% of the time through on the job. Now, let me quickly say this on a lighter note, but on a serious note at the same time. You know, some people will say, oh, I worked in a certain organization for 2 years. I wasn't trained at all. If you look at this learning model, it literally means it is impossible to work anywhere and not be trained, because it stipulates that 70% of learning takes place on the job. What now matters here is that, or what happens here is that you may be learning and not recognize it as learning, or because nobody will give you a certificate at the end. Sometimes the learning can be from your subordinate, your peer, or your line manager. Sometimes it could be you are making a presentation, or you sometimes something and they are providing certain feedback, guidance, correction. That's also part of learning. Okay. Outside of the 70%, 20% of the learning is through what? Social learning, collaboration with other people in the workplace, in your organization. Last but not the least, just 10% of learning is what? Is formal. By formal, we now mean all the likes of classroom training, web training, webinars, LMS, learning management systems, and so on and so forth, will form what? 10%. And some organizations have this model like will I call it like a guideline or a mantra or a template, and from their induction, they will tell you when you are joining the organization that here, our approach to learning is 70-20-10. 70% on the job, 20% through social interaction, and only 10 is classroom, web-based, learning management system-based, and so on and so forth. It's used in corporate trainings to focus on experiential learning and collaborative activities. It also encourages informal and peer-to-peer learning initiatives. For example, on the job, you can easily speak to your colleague to say, well, how do you do this? Teach me, or show me, or put me in the know. All right. Criticisms include it oversimplifies how people learn. The ratio is not evidence-based, so it could be 60-20-20, for example, and may not apply universally from organization to organization, from industry to industry, and it also, in a way, undervalues formal training program. Ladies and gentlemen, We've looked at motivational theories. We've looked at learning theories. Now we'll look at a few organizational behavior theories. We have the Hutton effect. We have the popular famous theory X and theory Y, also known as the McGregor theory. We have organizational culture theory, and we have the change management theories. And these theories are part of the organizational behavior theory family. Now, let's look at them in quick succession. Now, the Hutton effect, okay, states that the core elements include the fact that workers modify their behavior when they know they are being observed. I want that to sink in. Hutton effect. Workers modify their behavior when they know they are being observed. Let me give a real life example of something I did in one of the places I worked in the past, way back. So I was managing, we're in a pool office, we were like maybe 20 in that pool office. So I spoke with my own team lead and I got the permission. Then we installed, what do you call this thing now? A camera in the pool office. Now, we only installed the camera. We did not connect the camera to the computer where the CCTV is connected, but they didn't know. Guess what? That week was the most calm week in that office. The noise level moved down. The people were more focused on their jobs. Us trading reduced significantly. Of course, after 1 week, I now removed the device and then told them that I was doing an experiment. They were like, are you for real? So you mean this thing was not connected to the CCTV? And we were just behaving ourselves. I'm just saying, on a personal level, how I have tested this Hutton effect. The same thing applies if, for example, a line manager is sitting in the same pool with his subordinates, their behavior will be most likely modified versus if he has his own separate office and so on and so forth. Now, another core element is that it increased attention improves performance. So when you pay attention to the workers, to the employees, you are almost always eyeballing what they are doing. What do you see? They spend less time on frivolities, spend more time on the job, pay better attention to the assignment and task, and their turnaround time seem to be better. Well, maybe somebody will say, is that not micromanaging of some sort? All right. Some of the key assumptions is employee behavior is influenced by social factors and attention. Observation changes work outcomes. So the presence of observation or the lack of observation or the degree of observation may be positively correlated to the quality and type of outcomes. Okay, and it can be applied in workplace experiments to assess what? Productivity, encourage managers to provide positive attention. I like that word. Positive attention to employees. Some of the criticisms around this Hutton effect include the fact that improvement may not be sustained after the observation ends. In other words, even if you have a CCTV and they know or notice that nobody is regularly, consistently checking the CCTV, after a while, they will go back to their shell, to their behavior. All right. Overemphasis on monitoring can also reduce trust. It's like, don't you trust us? And that can also sometimes be what? Counterproductive. Now, I love this theory X and Y. I remember way back when I was doing my MBA program at the Obafemi Awolowo University back in the days. I was very fascinated with the theory X and with the theory Y. And theory X assumes employees dislike work. Now, I'm tempted to do an experiment on this call. Okay, let's do it. There's no harm. If you think employee dislike work, okay, just say yes. If you think, generally speaking, they say for every rule there's an exception. Generally speaking, do you think employees dislike work? Now, I'm talking about employees in general. I'm not talking about maybe only Gen Z or only millennials or baby boomers and so on and so forth. Generally, do you think employees dislike work? Now, theory X stipulates that, assumes that employees dislike work. Because they dislike work, they require supervision. Because any opportunity to stop working or not to work, they will embrace it. Ladies and gentlemen, employees not only dislike work, they require supervision and they avoid responsibility. They want to push the task to the next available worker within their vicinity. Nobody wants to own up. Okay, and that's the theory. Theory X. I remember how I remembered that it was theory X about the announcement. Okay, X like council. They don't like work. Now, theory Y, on the other hand, assumes employees are self-motivated. They have ginger, natural ginger. Are self-motivated, they seek responsibility and value creativity. They want to add value to the organization. They want to serve the customers. They want to get results. They want to get things done. Let me ask again, which is correct? Theory X or theory Y? Theory X or theory Y, in your opinion, based on where you work currently? Is it theory X or theory Y that you will subscribe to? Now, thank you so much, my brother. Tochukwu, good to read from you. Thanks for joining this call as always. Okay, now, some of the assumptions, management style depends on assumption about employee motivation. So you will see, for especially those of us who work with owner-manager business, also known as one-man businesses, most of the time, that owner, or even in other businesses that are not owner-manager, but have a dominant, maybe director or manager or partner, as the case may be, you will see if that person is a theory X person, it will explain their approach to people management. On the flip side too, if that dominant player or leader or manager in the organization is also a theory Y person, it will also manifest in their approach to people management. Okay? The good thing is that for theory Y, it promotes autonomy and creativity. Now, let me just say this on a lighter note, which is serious note. I'm just reflecting on it as we're having this conversation. If you are a theory X manager, let me ask on the group. If you are a theory X manager, would you allow remote work? Yes or no? Let me see. My brother, you said both are correct. Okay. Thank you so much. You see, so and this is one of the reasons that having an appreciation for theories, and this is a theory of maybe 1960 something. The moment you are a theory X manager, I can put it to you that you are not going to like remote work, because remote work assumes a theory Y approach. In other words, employees don't need supervision. Employees like work. So whether they are physically with you in the same territory, jurisdiction, or space, they will work or they will not work. All right. Some of the benefits or applications there, it helps managers adopt appropriate leadership styles. It helps encourage participatory decision making, for example, in a theory Y environment. So if you have profiled the majority of your staff, okay, you will know whether they are tilting or tilted towards theory X characteristics or towards theory Y characteristics. Again, the caliber of people you are working with, for example, if you are working with factory people, they may be I'm saying this respectfully, carefully. I'm not saying it in absolute terms. But if you are working with largely factory hands and workers, they may tend to tilt a little towards theory X. But if maybe you're in a consulting firm or a professional management firm like that, you may tilt towards theory Y. Again, you may tilt. I'm not saying it that all of them, so because there will be many factorians who are theory Y oriented, and there are also many professional firm employees who are theory X. Now, some of the criticisms around this theory X and Y is that it may oversimplify employee behavior. And that, in fact, one key theory is that it assumes that there are just two employee behaviors, X or Y, the two extremes. And in reality, the same employee at some period in the day or in the week can be displaying X tendencies. And at other period of the day or week or window under observation, they may be displaying Y tendencies. Who on this call can confirm that depending on their mood or season or situation, you have displayed either theory X or Y, either the same day or the same week, or on an ongoing basis, you are oscillating between X and Y. Who on this call can relate with that? All right, ladies and gentlemen, this theory, apart from oversimplifying employee behavior into two extremes, it also neglects context, it ignores culture, and it also ignores individual differences. Individual differences. Thank you so much, my highly esteemed colleagues, for sharing your thoughts and insights. Somebody said, yes, we are oscillating typically either daily, weekly, or within the observation window or period. Yes, and it really depends on factors. Okay, moving on, you will see here that the third theory, so we've spoken about Orton effect, we've spoken about theory X and Y. Don't forget that currently we are discussing around organizational theories, okay? And the third theory we are looking at is organizational culture theory. And some of the core elements of the organizational culture theory include the fact that organizational culture includes shared values, beliefs, norms, and practice. Okay, so it can be written and unwritten. So it's a combination of written and unwritten. It shapes employee behavior, and it also shapes what? Decision making. All right. Assumptions include culture drives organizational success, leadership shape and reinforce culture. By leadership here, we mean maybe the business owner or the business managers, the prominent persons in the organization, their behavior becomes leadership. So maybe do they come to work early? Do they close late? Do they pay attention to detail? Are they very courteous and friendly? Those kind of things shape and reinforce the culture. Okay. And another key assumption is that alignment between culture and strategy is very critical. Peter Drucker said that, or is alluded to Peter Drucker, that culture is strategy for breakfast. So in the organizational culture theory, one key assumption is that there's a critical alignment between culture and strategy so that we can achieve organizational results. Now, some other practical applications of this theory could be, when you are doing onboarding for new staff, your induction process, you want to align new hires very quickly and very early with organizational values. You also want to be able to do maybe cultural assessments, for example, between doing mergers and acquisition. I won't mention because it's still in the works. Two major organizations that are trying to merge, they've gotten approval from the relevant approval authority. So I had to lead a training session for a cross session of their workers. We're trying to do a culture readiness and culture integration for them. This is what are we doing? We are using organizational culture theory. All right, we're trying to guide both the assessment and the integration in an ongoing merger and restructuring. Last but not the least, ladies and gentlemen, we have change management theories. Just to mention here, there are 2, 3, or more change management theories. So I didn't specify any in particular, but the change management theories have some similarities, some commonalities, let me put it that way. So they typically look at and focus on a structured approach to implementing organizational change. And organizational change can be anything. It can be maybe you're introducing a new way of work. For example, when organizations were strictly working on site and then they had to move to remote or hybrid, that's a change. Or you've been doing hybrid and remote and you want to, don't let me use the word force, you want to like compel everybody to be fully on site, that's another change. So if you are very manual, for example, in an analog, and you try to digitize your processes, workflow, and so on and so forth, introduce HRIS and the likes, that's another change. Okay, so anything can be that change. Maybe you change work pattern, that can be another change, as the case may be. So the focus on structured approach to implementing organizational change, and some of these models, for example, we have the Lewin's change model. Okay, and in that change model, it speaks around, first of all, you need to unfreeze, you want to change, then you want to defreeze. It means change is, we are doing something like this, we want to start doing it like this. So because we are doing it like this currently, you have to what? Unfreeze. Then you institute the change, and after you have changed, you now freeze. Freeze means you lock them into the new order, into the new way of doing things. You understand? Apart from that, we also have another theory of change, that is the Kotter's 8-step model. And for example, in that Kotter's model is slightly more elaborate than Lewis' change model, which has 3 steps, so to speak. And you have things like, stakeholder management. You have things like, communication and the likes. The key assumptions of change management theories basically include the fact that change requires what? Clear communication. In change management, communication is very critical. How you do it, the frequency, the methodology, the approach, the tools, and it can be the difference between success, mediocrity, and failure. Ladies and gentlemen, stakeholder buy-in is also very critical in change management theories. Okay, especially, another concept in change management is incremental implementation. So that's why sometimes you things like doing a pilot, before you scale company-wide or nationwide, as the case may be. You also need to manage resistance to change, because resistance is natural, and you have to plan for it, and you have to strategize how to overcome this resistance. Okay, and you manage it. All right. In change management, it's applied to even large-scale organization, even small-scale organization. As long as you have people, processes, and systems, it helps to guide managers in communicating and executing change effectively. Sometimes our ideas are brilliant. Why it doesn't succeed or get optimal results is our poor change management technique or approach. Maybe we introduced it too suddenly and too quickly. Sometimes we may need to run 2 models concurrently as we pivot into the next system, or you have done some aggressive, intensive training, stakeholder management, and so on and so forth. So, of course, change management theory has its own criticism. Okay, models can be oversimplified. It can oversimplify complex processes. The result to change may not be sometimes fully addressed, because sometimes no matter what you do, some people can be stiff-necked and may not want to change. As you can see so far, all the theories we have looked at have criticisms. So my brother, my sister, fellow HR professional, if you face criticisms, it's because you have something. And the only people that, even if you don't have anything, they will even criticize you again, for not having anything. Ladies and gentlemen, let's quickly look at some recruitment and selection theory. So far, following our conversation from the beginning to now, you will see that every HR domain has corresponding theories. There's hardly any HR subject matter area or domain that doesn't have corresponding theories. So are you familiar with the theories underpinning your area? So if you are a recruitment specialist, maybe that's the only thing you do, then I put it to you, my brother, my sister, my colleague, that you need to know these theories inside out so that you because knowing these theories in detail will make you more grounded. You will even be able to explain some of the things you've been doing for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So we have the attraction, selection, attrition model, the person organizational fit. Look at that. Attraction, selection, attrition model. Then we have the social identity theory. Then we also have the person environment fit theory. So look at that. The first one is attraction, selection model, attrition, which is also known as the person organizational fit. The last one, the third one is person environmental fit theory, which is matching employees to what? To roles. Let's quickly look at some of these theories in slightly greater detail. Ladies and gentlemen, the first one is attraction, selection, attrition. ASA theory, ASA. Okay, so the ASA theory, what are the key elements here? Organizations attract individuals whose values align with their culture. Don't forget attraction, which means from far off. Maybe you don't even have a vacancy yet. Potential candidates are already desirous to work with your firm. And some of the things that will draw their attention is your culture and their own value. Does their individual value, does it align? Does it jive with your organizational culture? The next core element here is the fact that selection involves hiring individuals who fit the organization. And lastly, but also importantly, attrition occurs when mismatched individuals leave. So this theory is saying that at some point, there may be a mismatch between the individual and the organization, and that's what leads to attrition. Okay, maybe something changed in the organization or something changed with the employee. Can be a change in value, can be a change in culture, as the case may be, and then it leads to what? Attrition. Now, this theory helps guide recruitment to ensure cultural alignment. It is used in designing retention strategies based on organizational fit. So we will see that this particular ASA theory, ASA, links attraction to selection and to what? Attrition. Because of that, retention is very key. Because you are already thinking of what can make an employee leave, and you are trying to put in strategies. You are trying to design such strategies to make sure you have a good job. Ladies and gentlemen, assumptions include organizational culture is reinforced by the people within it, your current staff, and fit leads to higher satisfaction and performance. So when you make sure that you do a pretty good job, decent job with your recruitment process, you bring in people who are fit, generally, those people will have higher job satisfaction. Generally, this set of employees will have higher performance. They'll be self-motivated. As always, this theory is not without its own fair share of criticisms. It can lead to homogeneity and a lack of diversity. You know, when you are saying you are doing culture fits, so in other words, you are looking for people who look like us. Maybe mode of thinking, how they analyze issues, and so on and so forth. So if we follow this concept literally, completely, rigidly, it can lead to homogeneity and a lack of what? Diversity. It can also limit creativity and adaptability in what? Dynamic environments. Doesn't that make some sense? Ladies and gentlemen, we move to the next recruitment and selection theory, which is social identity theory. And the core element of the social and identity theory speaks to the fact that individuals derive self-concept from membership in social groups. Groups identify influences, behaviors, and intergroup what? Dynamics. So your organization is a group or a combination of groups. Maybe the departments are different groups. The assumptions here include people seek positive group membership. So what kind of vibe as a group does the organization give outside there? Social categorization shapes attitudes. Group conflicts arise from what? Identity differences. Again, practical applications here can be applied in diversity and inclusion programs used to address intergroup conflicts in the workplace. Okay, so this may not completely be like a recruitment strategy, but because what happens within organizations, especially big ones, some are filters to the society, and it can, anchor, impede, or be an attraction to potential employee. The third one, which is the person environmental fit theory, the key elements include fit occurs when individual abilities align with organizational demands. I love that. A fit, if you are looking for definition of a fit, fit occurs when individual abilities align with what? Organizational demand. So there's an existing organizational demand, a potential organizational demand, and there's an existing what? Individual ability. Is there alignment? Is there a synchronization between the employee abilities and the organizational design? It also includes person job fit and person organizational fit. So an individual candidate can fit with the job on one hand and also fit with the organization on the other hand. And you can have a fit with the job but not a fit with the organization, or a fit with the organization and not a fit with the job. So you need both a fit with the organization and a fit with the job. Practical applications include it guides recruitment and selection processes. It is also used in designing job roles and work environment. Though sometimes in HR, we don't think about this upfront or well, either because we joined organizations that exist already. Imagine you are the first HR in a place, or you are with a startup organization. You have to reflect critically when you are designing the job roles and when you are designing the work environment the job roles will operate in. Okay. Criticisms include measuring fit may be subjective. Okay. It may be context dependent. In addition to this, the theory sort of over-focuses on fit and may exclude diverse perspective. Because we are thinking of fit, which means if everybody must fit, any misfits, we don't give them a chance. And what you have here is you don't really have sufficient diversity. And in recent times, we've been clamoring for diversity and inclusion. Ladies and gentlemen, let's move from selection recruitment theories to some performance management theories. Again, most of us do performance management, and we don't know that there are quite a number of theories that we are leveraging on either consciously or unconsciously, and we are just running with things. Okay, hopefully this particular session will give us additional insight. So again, this is not everything, but you have goal setting theory, Locke and Lathan, 1990. You have what we call the control theory, okay, which focuses on feedback, corrective action. Okay, the goal setting theory speaks to specific challenging goals. We've already discussed the expectancy theory, which speaks to performance expectations. And then we have the balanced scorecard model, okay, Kaplan and Norton, which speaks to the 4 dimensions of performance management. Ladies and gentlemen, show me some emojis. Let me see evidence that we are still together in this conversation. Now, let's quickly look at the goal setting theories. Okay, what are the core elements of the goal setting theories? Goals improve performance, okay, by providing direction and motivation. Just imagine a football match without a goalpost. even if it is multi-post, is that post, that goal that makes football exciting. There's a target that the two teams are trying to move the ball inside towards. Okay. It's not as if we can't play football without goal posts. We can just be dribbling aimlessly and recklessly, but it will reduce the intensity of the football match. It will reduce the entertainment value of the, and that's the way work is, ladies and gentlemen. Goals improve performance by providing direction and also provides what? Motivation. In addition to this, we are aware of SMART must be specific, it must be measurable, it must be achievable, it must be relevant, it must be time bound. Okay. And in goal setting theory, feedback is also very crucial, very critical to success. Okay. Goal setting theory is used in performance management and appraisal systems. It's applied in team projects to also align efforts of the team members. I have a feeling everybody on this call or listening to the recorded version on YouTube has used goal setting theory. You just didn't know that. Oh, so it is called goal setting theory. You've used it. You've used it. All right. Some of the assumptions include clear goals, improve focus and persistence. Challenging but attainable goals enhance efforts. Feedback fosters better results. So you see, when we see performance appraisal sessions, typically ends with maybe one-on-one between the line manager and the employee. That feedback session is part of the goal setting theory. Again, there are criticisms for this theory too. It's not freed, it's not exempted from criticisms. Okay. Overemphasis on goals can lead to unethical behavior. In other words, achieve it at any cost syndrome. Okay, excessively challenging goals may also reduce motivation. So while stretch goals motivate and inspire, if the goal too is excessively challenging, it can be GOA. By GOA, I mean get on arrival. People will just say that this goal is unattainable and then they give up. Or immediately they start looking for a job with competition or even outside of the industry. Another theory, apart from in addition to the goal setting theory, is the control theory. And the control theory, some of the core elements here speaks to the fact that behavior is regulated by comparing performance against standards. Look at that. So there's a standard or a target. Then you are comparing, you are measuring that performance, the actual performance now, versus the standard. And by so doing, you are regulating behaviors. It also stipulates the fact that feedback loops correct deviation. So when you have feedback between the line managers and the subordinates and the employees, when you are saying, oh, let's take a look at your performance, this surveys the standards, this is what you have done well, this is what you are lacking, and maybe you have conversations around why are you falling below the standard, below targets. What is that? Feedback. And what that does is somehow, all things being equal, it helps to what? Correct deviations. It helps to correct deviations. It also involves goal setting, monitoring, and adjustments. Okay? Goal setting, monitoring, and adjustments. And it's applied in performance monitoring systems. It's used also in project management to track and adjust what? Progress. Assumptions include people self-regulate to align their actions with their set goals. And then feedback is very essential for corrective action. Criticisms include the fact that this can lead to micromanagement, and overemphasis on monitoring can reduce autonomy and creativity. You see that there's nothing we can do. People will always stop and complain. Or because we are always looking for advancement, we'll come up with other theories. All right. So expectancy theory, very quickly. Motivation is based on expectancy. Okay. Effort leads to performance, and so on and so forth. We've already discussed that. So let me move on swiftly to balanced scorecard. All right. So some of these theories can also feature in multiple HR domain areas. That's just one of the things I also wanted us to realize and see. All right. So the balanced scorecard, the framework for strategic management generally, is focused on what? 4 cardinal points. Traditionally, most businesses focus on financial. We all know that, don't we? But the balance scorecard, according to Norton and Kaupler, said in addition to finance, we're not saying we shouldn't focus on it. Let's also consider the customer. Let's consider our internal processes. And then let's consider what? The learning and growth perspective. Ladies and gentlemen, some of the assumptions here speaks to what? Organizational benefits from a balanced approach. A car has 4 tires, don't use one. And that balanced approach helps with what? Sustainability. It helps with success in the what? In the long term. This balanced approach helps in measuring performance. It also helps in what? Aligning strategy and operations so that we can improve outcomes. All right, some of the practical applications, it guides incentive design in organization. It is used to design rewards with it's used in organizational performance management. It guides strategy development and implementation. So you can easily transpose the corporate objectives, the strategic goals of the organization, and then put it on the balanced scorecard canvas. And you can see things that speak directly and indirectly to finance, things that speak directly and indirectly, okay, to internal processes, things that speak to our customers, things that speaks to learning and growth internally. And a lot of organizations today use this balanced scorecard or a variant of balanced scorecard. Moving on very swiftly so that we can bring this conversation to a close, not too distant time. We also have some theories around well-being and burnout, employee wellness and well. Okay, so you have the job crafting theory, you have the well-being theory, you have the psychological safety theory, you have the burnout theory revisions. In other words, there have been some burnout theory, and then we have some more recent episode on the theory. The job crafting theory focuses on employees shaping their roles. So sort of autonomy here again. Burnout theory looks at chronic stress, looks at emotional exhaustion. You know, when you're talking with Gen Z and you're hearing mental wellness, so you can see how recent this theory is. 2010s. You can see why now. Okay, and when you look at the well-being theory, there's something called the PAMA model. And in that PAMA model, you're looking at positive emotions. That's what P stands for. Okay, you are looking at engagements, relationships. M stands for what? Meaning. And A stands for accomplishment. Then with respect to psychological safety theory, you are looking at a safe, open work environment. So these theories are relatively recent, relatively contemporary, but they are all fallouts from the more ancient, more traditional, long-term standing theories. Ladies and gentlemen, in the job crafting theory, as we can see, the core elements here, as highlighted, employees proactively shape their jobs. They can alter their task, the relationships, and their work perception. It includes task crafting, changing trust, relational crafting, changing interaction, cognitive crafting, changing mindsets. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to know on this call who is using this job crafting theory currently. Anyone, please, let's see your comments in the chat box. Also, I would also like to know which generation do you think will like this theory? Or do you think this theory was battered largely because of them? I also like to see your thoughts and comments in the chat box. Okay, it can be used in employee engagement strategies. It can be used to support individual career development and also job satisfaction. Some of the assumptions include the fact that employees have agency. Agency here means power, authority, okay, to redefine their job roles. Job crafting enhances engagement and what satisfaction. And you will see why, because any employee who is wired towards or predisposed towards this job crafting theory will most likely be on his own, or be a freelancer, or be doing 3, 4, 5 jobs at the same time. You can see now. You can see how these theories are evolving as the dynamism of the different, what's the word now? The different workplace generations are evolving, that iteration. Okay, job crafting enhances engagement and also satisfaction. What are some of the criticisms, ladies and gentlemen? Okay, it may lead to role ambiguity if boundaries are unclear, or it's so fluid you can move, change jobs as you like, modify the JD as you like, can lead to ambiguity over time. It can also lead to organizational misalignment, because with this, organizational alignment will be difficult and challenging. Imagine a person in charge of OD while you're using this job crafting theory. It could be very, very stressful, you know. Things will just be fluid and changing very rapidly and very quickly. Then the next theory, which is the burnout theory revision. Thank you so much, Peter Abambishe. Thank you so much. As if you knew I needed something like what you just said. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate you. Sincerely, I appreciate you. So, burnout theory divisions. Okay. The core elements here, it expands on traditional burnout model, okay, by including dimensions like, so intentionally, I didn't speak about the traditional burnout model because of time. You know, we can't touch on everything, but I'm focusing on the revision. But what does the burnout theory revisions, what does it now add to the existing model? It includes dimensions like what? Exhaustion, cynicism, and inefficacy. Okay, that's additional parameters, additional variables, additional considerations. Okay, it also highlights the impact of organization and social factor on burnout. Okay, so you have organizational factors, you also have social. So that social can be, you know, the community, the society, the family system, the city system, commuting, all those kind of things. Assumptions here include the fact that burnout arises from chronic workplace stress. Also, the fact that systematic intervention are as crucial as individual coping mechanism. Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention to this, because burnout is something we face every day, or some of our colleagues are facing. Either they know it or not. Now, you will see from this assumption here that there are two systematic assumptions. One is the fact that there should be what? Individual coping mechanism. So we must help train, equip our employees to develop better coping mechanism on one hand. And then two, we should also see how we will improve the organization. For example, our line managers, our systems, our structures, our workload assignments. You understand? Okay. So on one hand, we are trying to make the organization a better place. We are trying to equip the leaders, the managers to lead with empathy, those kind of things. But on the other hand, we are trying to improve the coping mechanism of the employees, because you may not necessarily always be able to adjust the organization to the employee level. So the employee needs to come up, the organization needs also to be more moderated and temperate, even as we try to deliver on our mandate, on our deliverables. Okay, some of the applications here guides organizational policies on workload management. Okay, it can be applied in designing wellness and resilience programs. Very important. And then again, there are criticisms, ladies and gentlemen. What can a man do, or what can a woman do? Ladies and gentlemen, it focuses more on what? Work-related factors, often neglecting personal and societal influences. And again, some definitions can be indeed vague. Now, let's look at the well-being theory. Well-being theory. And the core elements involved in the well-being include, it focuses on 5 elements. So when we talk about well-being theory, we are looking at 5 elements. First element in the 5 is what? Positive emotions. You know, I'm sure you must have had this maybe where you worked or some must have shared something around. They say, oh, please, don't bring your emotion to work. When you get to the gate, just drop it. Can we be emotionless while we work? Question mark. I'll ask it again. Can we really be emotionless? If we are emotionless, don't you think we are machines or robots or AI, as the case may be? Even AI is trying to show some emojis and emoticons, as the case may be. So the first element in well-being theory is what? Positive emotions. Next is what? Engagement relationships. You know, engagement relationships. Then we have what? Accomplishment. So positive emotions, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishment. Again, I'm tempted to test us here. Can you see some relationship between this well-being theory and one of the old theories that we discussed, accomplishment? You remember that theory that spoke about achievement? Can you remember that theory? So you will see that even new theories still go and pick from 1 or 2 or 3 of the old theories. Okay, now when you are looking at this well-being theory, you are looking at positive emotions, engagements, relationships, meaning, accomplishment. It can be applied in employee assistance programs. It can be used in fostering a positive organizational culture. Okay, some of the assumptions here include well-being is what? Multidimensional. It's not just one parameter. So those just think, oh, once you give them more money, that's all. Or once you give them hybrid, that's all. No. Multi-dimensional approach. Assumptions also shows that we need to enhancing one dimension can improve overall satisfaction and performance. Okay, again, they criticized it. We criticized it. We said it is overtly broad and subjective. We said it is difficult to measure and operationalize in organizations, which are some merits. I align with the criticisms too. Ladies and gentlemen, let's look at the last theory under the well-being and burnout theory segment. Okay, and that is what we call the psychological safety theory. The psychological safety theory. Ladies and gentlemen, the core elements include the fact that there is a shared belief that workplace is safe for interpersonal risk. The workplace is safe from share thoughts, ideas, opinions without fear of retribution, without fear of negative consequences, without fear that somebody will become malicious and hold a grudge or malice against us and then sanction us in another area for an opinion or point he made on the job or trying to enhance somebody's contributions or inputs. It encourages open communication, innovation, and learning. Okay, some of the assumptions here include the fact that employees perform better in environments where they feel safe to express themselves. And under psychological safety theory, trust is fundamental, is foundational, and is embedded. All right? It can be used in what? Team building and leadership development. It can be applied in creating inclusive and innovative workplaces. Ladies and gentlemen, then criticize this one too. We criticize them. Waiting we talk. It may be misunderstood as an excuse for low accountability. In other words, you can see anything anyhow and say, oh, this is a psychologically safe place. And then so you are not necessarily accountable for your words or your utterance or your statements. Of course, you know that's not the intent. In building a psychological safe place can also be time intensive. In other words, the culture of psychological safety cannot be implemented overnight. It takes time, intentionality by HR management, line managers, and relevant stakeholders. I think we are almost getting to the end of today's session, and this set of theories speaks to what? Technology and the now of work. When we were saying future of work, that future is now. Okay, so let's say technology and the future of work, or technology and the now of work. Of course, that now is not applicable in all industries or all organizations, depending on who is managing it and depending on whether a theory X or a theory Y manager. Ladies and gentlemen, the four theories we'll be looking at very swiftly. You have the remote work theory, we have the gig economy theory, we have the artificial intelligence HR theory, and then we have the future of work theory. Remote work speaks to things around virtual teams and flexibilities. Gig economy theory speaks around things like non-traditional work arrangements. AI, of course, speaks to HR-driven practices. And future of work speaks to adapting to changing workforce dynamics. Ladies and gentlemen, stay with me. We are almost wrapping up now. Stay with me, ladies and gentlemen. So remote work theories, some of the core elements include emphasis on flexibility in location and time for work. So if our agreement is 40 hours, that 40 hours, I can give you 4 hours in the morning, 6 hours at night. It doesn't have to be 8 to 5 continuously. In fact, my own can start from 4 a.m. till 10. I do some other things, come back at 2, and then continue, as the case may be. Flexibility in location. I don't necessarily have to come to your site or a designated site. I can go to Enugu, work for 1 week, go to Abuja, work for another week. I can be visiting my relatives in different places, and I'll be delivering the services, okay, to you. It requires communication. It requires technology, of course, laptop, internet, those kind of things. It also requires trust. Focus is on work outcomes rather than presence. I love that. In this remote work theory, focus is on work outcomes and not on I can see you. It's not on presence. Ladies and gentlemen, there are assumptions inherent here in this theory. Technology allows for efficient remote communication and collaboration. Trust in employee is crucial for work productivity. Practical applications can be applied in flexible work policies, utilized in employee retention strategies, and enhanced by what? Digital collaboration tools. So the organization may need to make some investment. Sometimes the employees also need to make some investment, or some organizations will make the investment on behalf of the employees. They will give you the tools, even give you allowance. A friend of mine, I don't know if he's on this call, but started today, he was telling me in one of the places he used to work, not his current place, they give them allowance for solar, inverter, they, shipped ergonomic chairs and tables to their homes. They help them set up their own offices. Some organizations are cool like that because they know that the working condition, if you are working remote and that remote is your house, they supported in equipping for the employees, as the case may be. All right. Criticisms also include the fact that it can lead to feelings of isolation. So if you are working from home, there's some value. Sometimes we understate this value. Yes, we come to work, but we make friends. Some of my best friends today, I met them on the job. In fact, some of them have transited from friends to brotherhood. Let me use that expression. We are so close, can spend time at each other's house. We can do family getaways together, those kind of things. We can rub minds, share our fears, our concerns, our successes, and our failures. Okay, so remote work can lead to feelings of isolation or disengagement. There are certain things that happen because you go to the water dispenser to get water. and you meet another colleague trying to get water before you, or who comes to get water after you, and you can just strike a short conversation. And that can lead to creativity. That can lead to encouragement. That person can say, why is your son? How is your daughter? Oh, your hair is nice. But if you're at home working remotely, sometimes this remote work even in meetings, you are not obligated to put on your video. Or some of us will say, let's put on your video. Say, no, I'm not camera ready. And we can't see you. We can't compliment you. We can't appreciate your smile. And that's why when I do these webinars, you will notice I always use my webinar on my videos. Because if I'm teaching without the video, your ability to follow is different from if you're just listening to me. You can see my expression, you can see me smiling, you can see me trying to pour the information into your mind. Don't mind me, I can be like that sometimes. Another criticism is the fact that work-life boundaries may blur. And let me use myself as an example. Any day I'm working from home, confession, the first thing I do, from 5:30, I just start work. I may not take a shower or take my bath until 9 or 10. When I'm not feeling headache, and I realize that headache is because I've not eaten anything. And then I say, okay, let me brush my teeth, take my shower, blah, 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 eat, and then get back to work. Guess what happens? Most people who work remotely, especially by choice, end up doing more than 8 hours. Check it. Especially people who enjoy their job. One, you start the work much earlier. So when some other people who are going on to the site are in transit, you are already working. When they are also on transit back home, you are still working. So it can lead to a blur between, work time and not work time. So you give more even to the work. And then, especially in this part of the world, this part of Africa, you can have technology issues. Believe it or not, I suspect that the internet is best in Lagos than any other part of Nigeria. There may be Abuja, Port Harcourt. The more you go up, because the fiber optics that brought internet, apart from those using satellite, landed in Lagos. So the more interland you go, the worse the internet can be. And even in Lagos, sometimes you won't believe for these webinars, I, on the average, use 3 or 4 networks. Glo, Airtel, MTN, and Zain. All networks are on at the same time. Sometimes I'm using 2 laptops, using different networks just to ensure continuity and to minimize glitch. How many people can afford to be subscribed to 4 internets at the same time? Just because they want to ensure seamless communication and workflow. So you can have technology issues. Then we have the gig economy theory. And the gig here, okay, ladies and gentlemen, fantastic. Thank you so much, JK. Water cooler chat. Thank you so much, Chidebere. Exactly. I work more than 8 hours since I started a position like it, because they realize that they'll get more value from you. They tend to almost every time. Now, with respect to gig economy here, work is on trial basis. You're like freelance. You can work for multiple people, especially as long as there's no conflict of interest or you're able to compartmentalize and you're not sharing information of company A with company B. It focuses on freelancers, short-term contracts rather than full-time employment. Okay, it is platform facilitated. In other words, we have quite a number of platforms nowadays and in recent past where you can enroll, and it's almost like you are either showing interest in projects or bidding for projects. Organizations with projects are bidding for your services and so on and so forth. So that's why we also call it sometimes platform facilitate the matching of workers and employees. So that kind of thing is like project-based. So the task can be 2 hours and then they pay you for the 2 hours. But you have maybe 8 hours or more, 5 hours for that other client. Okay, the gig economy provides flexibility and autonomy for workers. It also challenges traditional employment models. Okay, now, how do we apply the gig economy practically? In addition to some of the things we've said and discussed today so far, it can be applied in workforce planning and outsourcing. I'll give an example, especially as we approach 2025, which may be, especially initially, slightly more difficult, even more difficult than 2024, although we anticipate and hope and pray that as the year matures, that things will begin to ease out and get better. But if one of your staff or some of your staff resigns or exits now, you may not want to be quick to replace that person with a full-time staff, because you're also trying to manage costs for the organization. So when somebody leaves, especially when they leave by themselves, I'm not saying that you chase them or you pursue them, or part of your contribution as HR could be look at that role again critically. Must you have a full-time staff for that role? Can you permit that or cannibalize the job function and add it to 2-3 people who are freelancers? They may come cheaper and more efficient, and you won't carry some overhead. You won't probably need to have, what do you call it, HMO. You may not even need group life insurance. You probably will not need pension and the likes. And you are legit, because these people are working. You are not their primary employer, and they are meeting your needs. It can be a consideration. I'm not saying in every instance, certain roles may be more suited for it than the other. Okay, so it's relevant for freelancing platform, non-traditional work models. Can be opportunity. So let me also ask on the lighter note. For some roles like cleaners, why must the cleaner be full-time on site? Can the cleaner just come to your office 6:30 to 9 and move away, and you pay for that 3 hours? Although I know some of us now use the cleaners as, they now double as office assistant. But what we now end up doing is we cheat those cleaners. They will get to the office like 6 o'clock and they will close with us at 5. That's doing more than 8 hours of work. Think about it. Reflect on it. Instead of you to say, okay, work 6:30 to 9 and go. So, which means you can be a petty trader, you clean in the morning and you go to your shop in the afternoon. Of course, in that context, you'll be a gig economy worker, if I can use it. But much more likely, all this, you can work across projects all over the world. So I remember when I was with a tech company, some of us employees were in places like Sri Lanka, India, Poland. And so one of the things we did in our organization was that we became a 24-hour organization. So we are not dependent or reliant only on Nigerian employees. We hired intentionally gig workers from other time zones, so that as we are sending complaints requests, if you see maybe 200 tickets in the evening, by the time you are closing, by the time you resume in the morning, it will have cleared to maybe 10. Why? People in different time zones. So it improved our turnaround time. So you can see what leveraging this gig economy can do much more easily without running shifts in your country. You can still be running 80 hours a different basis. You can be running a 24-hour organization. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you are getting some form of extra value from this topic, from this session tonight. Thank you so much for joining. We're wrapping up anytime from now. Stay with me, stay with me. We also have the AI HR theory. The AI is integrated to HR processes, enhance decision making, recruitment, and so on and so forth. It uses machine learning, natural language processing, predictive analytics, and so on and so forth. Again, we already use it today in recruitment, chatbots for employee queries, predictive analytics for talent management. Some of the assumptions include the fact that AI can streamline HR operations, improve efficiency, AI aids in decision making, and remove bias sentiments from HR processes. Some of the criticisms, again, include concerns over AI replacing human judgment, ethical concerns regarding bias and AI systems, and potential job displacement, as the case may be. Last but not the least is the future of work theory, focusing on the changing nature of work due to technology advancement, globalization, demographic shifts. It encompasses, of course, remote work, automation, new organizational structures, as the case may be. Assumptions include technology and automation will define jobs and skills, and workforce structures will become more flexible and dynamic, and can be applied in workforce development, training programs, organizational restructuring, and is relevant for planning future skills requirements. Criticisms already exist for the future of work. That is the now of work. Over-reliance on technology could possibly lead to job displacement, unequal access to new opportunities. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it may even, in some instances, widen the skill gap. In some instances. So, insights for us professionals, let's expose all our workforce the different types of workforce to digital literacy is very important so that they can leverage and they can upskill, they can unlearn, relearn, they can reskill, and they will be relevant and useful as certain job types fade off, but they will be disposed to, taking new opportunities and new job sites. So as we wrap up, all these theories directly and indirectly have impacts on talent management, and by management from attraction, retention, even attrition, employee engagement. Yeah, there are implications for strategic workforce planning, as we have shown. There are implications for performance management, as we have discussed tonight. There are implications and applications for learning and development. And of course, all the other HR terrains, and what are the implications, ultimate implication of these theories is for organizational performance development. We want to improve productivity and efficiency. We want to enhance innovation and creativity. You want better decision-making and problem-solving capabilities. You want to increase adaptability and resilience. And you want to sustain competitive advantage. Ladies and gentlemen, these theories provide foundation for understanding human behavior, their motivation, performance in the workplace, is help in guiding HR practices and strategies. They also address emerging HR trends, technological advancements, shifting workforce demographics, okay, different generations, also provide insights for effective HR practices. Ladies and gentlemen, the last thing I would like to say is the fact that you can combine insights from across different theories and merge it into something that fits your current context. Okay, I was having a conversation with a medical managing director who also happens to be a medical director of a hospital here in Lagos, and he was telling me that initially when he first started getting exposure to management and leadership theories, he would want to take it hook, line, and sinker and apply it on the job. And he was always struggling. Of course, with time, he now got to realize that there's hardly any theory you can take hook, line, and sinker. So portions of these theories, and that is why it's good to have an appreciation of all these theories or most of these theories. One, some of the things you've done in the past, you can see that you are not crazy, you are not mad. You can see theories that support or provide impetus for what you have done. And then you can also cherry pick, especially once you identify a context that matches a particular aspect of certain theories. And you can also create your own. Ladies and gentlemen, I must confess and confirm that I've enjoyed facilitating very thoroughly tonight's session. And I would like to take contributions, comments, questions, as the case may be. I still have maybe a few minutes to spare. Ladies and gentlemen, if you raise your hands, I'll be happy to grant and say one or two things. All right. I see you, my very own brother, Akadede. Thank you so much for creating time to join. Thank you, Mohammed Lawan. Thank you so much. My sister, my colleague, JK, Ajoke. You can speak, please.
Recording in progress. Recording in progress.
Udeme, you can speak, please. Okay, I can't seem to hear you, Udeme. Is it my network? Yes, but you may need to speak louder, please. Energy, energy. Or maybe you just type your
Is it better
thoughts or
now?
questions. I can hear you now. Fantastic.
Oh, okay. Good evening, sir. And thank you for today's session. So I just want to ask, with respect to some of the recommendations that you made as far, helping all members of our workforce to become digitally savvy in line with the dynamics of the future or the now of work, rather. How do you manage to achieve this with stakeholders who are resistant to change, especially when
Okay.
they are more like baby boomers? So they are not open to learning anything. I mean, as easy as it is to use Google Forms, Google Slides, they are not open to learning that. So how do you manage to navigate such challenge?
Okay. Thank you for your question. Because today we are talking about theories, I will refer you to one or two theories that you will go and study more extensively. That's change management theory. Okay? Change management theories. You need a lot of communication. You need a lot of engagement. You also need a lot of patience and perseverance. Okay? You may want to also pilot on something. So those kind of people, you may want to meet with them one-on-one and not necessarily in a group, or you group them together so that you are teaching at their pace and you show them maybe on a computer and you are projecting to say, this is how to use a Google form. When you use the Google form, this is how the results or outputs accumulate and aggregate and makes it easy for us to be able to analyze the data or use it for decision making and so on and so forth. Then think about maybe something, maybe in their personal life that they can use some of these things for. Because again, don't forget that theory that says adult learners, that when they can relate something quickly, they are more open to it. And then that way, you can help. Imagine you showing them how to use Google Form for their Ajo collection records. Suddenly, it makes more life to them than just showing them something you are doing in your HR space. It looks like we are just trying to make life easy for you. So that way, once they can see value, they are able to do it. But don't forget that some people will probably never change, except there's a sanction attached to it, or there's a penalty, or there's a consequence. So you integrate them gradually. Maybe you say, oh, your leave process should be on this digital platform, your this or that. And once you say that you can't go on leave if you don't use the digital platform, because they want to go on leave, somehow they will be willing to learn from somebody who is willing and available to show them what to do. So hopefully, most of the people with time and with the right humility and approach, you'll be able to convince them. Okay. I see your question, Michael. Theories, sometimes in those theories, the principles and concepts can be subset of theories. Okay, so theories can back some of these principles and those concepts, but I don't want us to be fixated on semantics tonight. Okay, all right. The important thing is you have the information and you're able to use it, whether it is a theory or a model, a principle, or a concept. Just be able to use it to solve your problem. I think I'll take one more question here that I see online on the chat from Ayokunle, and something like, what can one do in a system that does not reason in line with theoretical changes anytime you wish to bring change? You see, generally speaking, and that even applies to me or you, we don't like change. So we don't want change for change's sake. Anytime you want to initiate change, you must be able to show us that what you are taking us to is way better than where you are taking us from, or that the pain of remaining in our past is greater than the benefit of moving to our future. You need to show us. You need to sell it to us. It's not every time you can legislate change. All right. So, and that's why there are two. Lewin change model, for example, talks about unfreezing. Okay. Before you now are able to do the change, and then you are now able to refreeze. Go and meet people, show them data, insights, show them case studies, examples. I doubt if you always be the first, you won't always be the pioneer of this change. In the industry, who has done it and what results did they get? Can you even call one of them to come and do a 30 minutes presentation? Okay, because don't assume that people are always permanently unreasonable and permanently difficult. If the real essence of the change is to make business make more money or make our processes more simple, then sell it to us, convince us, show us, use data, use video, use images, use testimonials, okay? And then maybe don't show 20 people at the same time. Look for 1 or 2 people first, show them, let them see it. They can now be your change agents, your brand ambassadors, okay? And you know that generally it's not every time you push something that you get it. Don't get discouraged, or don't let that stop you from trying again. Thank you so much, JK. That's a very brilliant contribution and submission. And I suspect, as she's saying there, with respect to maybe people embracing technology or becoming more digitally savvy, okay, very nice recommendation or solution here. You can pair baby boomers and Gen Z for reverse mentoring. Okay, so they can be their body, and while they can be teaching them in some areas of career and work, they too can be teaching them in tech, IT, and those kind of things. Fantastic. Look for compatibility, please, as much as possible, and get them to be patient. You know, it's almost like you're working with your mom or your dad. You can't be in a hurry and say in 5 minutes you want to teach them. It can be you teach them every day the same. Tomorrow again, you teach them again. Next tomorrow, you teach them again. Till they get very familiar and very comfortable. Okay. Thank you so much, JK. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tonight. Thank you for joining. Thank you for your participation. And thank you for your attention. I'd like to sign out. Good night, guys. See you soon. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Good night, boss. Thank you, sir.
Good night. Good night.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Good night, sir. Thank you, boss. Good night, sir.
Good night, sir. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Good night. Good night.